This is Forgotten Rights, and I'm going to be going over today why I am opposed to speed limits. Now, I consider myself a libertarian. Libertarian is essentially someone who supports liberty above pretty much everything else in modern society. So, the general idea of a speed limit is because of safety concerns, people are not allowed to go over a certain speed, and if they do, they will receive small penalties from their government, which get bigger and bigger every time they offend. Now, let's take, for example, a typical speed limit 25 miles an hour in a residential area. Now, it seems nice to say, well, the government's trying to keep people safe. If anyone goes too fast, and the government can punish them so they don't make that choice. And the argument that would be libertarian would be saying that going above that speed would be considered reckless, and therefore we have to punish people who go faster than that because they're endangering human life. Well, the first problem with that is that it's not always endangering human life to go above the speed limit. And another thing, you see, it's almost always rounded off to a multiple of 5. So if it were to be scientifically based, then it would not be rounded off to 5. It would probably be like something with multiple decimal points. It's funny, there's even a sign in Las Vegas, 14 and a half miles per hour. Kind of just shows you how stupid and arbitrary the exact speed limit is. So that's one thing there is just it's kind of a guessing game. You don't actually know when it becomes a certain amount of danger, and there's always danger among all speeds. Even if you're going really slowly, there's a chance that some kid would run out right in front of your car, like inches in front of your car, and you still won't have time to react, or you might not even see them at all because your car is so much higher off the ground than the child is. And there's just always risks in this. But typically, when the government gives you a number and tells you you have to follow some rule related to a number, the good question to ask are, why not go higher and why not go lower? So why not go higher in speed limits? Well, allegedly, it's for safety. Why not go lower in speed limits? Well, there's not an argument for that. 25 miles an hour in a residential area, why not make it lower? Why not make it 20 miles an hour? Because certainly some people die in 25-mile-an-hour crashes. Why not make it even lower? Think how many lives could be saved? Sure, it'd be an inconvenience, but I mean, the whole argument of speed limits is that it's okay to punish people who are going fast if it means you can save some lives, right? That's the whole idea of it. So why not make it lower? Why not say 5 miles an hour in every residential area? I mean, sure, that's like jogging speed, but still, I mean, think of the lives that could be saved by inconveniencing people forcibly. So when you consider it, I mean, you can say, well, I mean, if it's okay to do it for some speed limits, if it's okay to bring it down to 25, why not bring it down to like 1 mile an hour? Why do we even let people travel in vehicles at all? Why not? Why don't we just say, we're not gonna have vehicles anymore, unless you're a member of police or an ambulance driver or some type of professional trucker, maybe licensed by the government, then you will not be allowed to drive a vehicle. Only people in the government or people who are specifically permitted by the government for special programs will be allowed to drive. Why don't we say that? How would you feel if that happened? Would you feel as if, the government was saving you from a horrible death in a vehicle accident? Or do you feel that the government is pushing you around? That the government is bullying you? The government is punishing you for doing what you have a right to do? There's no limiting principle. That's the thing about libertarianism. We try to establish principles. And I mean, I don't like have a big collaboration going with other libertarians. I just say libertarians, at least what I consider myself to be a libertarian, my type of libertarian, I try to establish rules, like principles by which we live. You know, Otherwise everything is just kind of a guessing game. There's no real reason to support anything. You just feel like it. So what's the limiting principle on how much we can restrict travel? Why don't we just say no one can travel anywhere? Why don't we just say you can only walk or bike places? Is there a reason not to? Because there are still thousands of deaths every year in the United States. Some of them are from very slow car accidents. Kids get run over all the time, even at low speeds, and like parking lots when people are backing up. Think how many lives could be saved, especially those of innocent children, if we just got rid of vehicles altogether. Well, the only logical answer is to say that we value freedom at least a little bit. I mean, and if you're gonna actually stand up for what you believe, or stand up for yourself a little bit, say, no, that's stupid. I'm not going along with the government saying we can't do any of this. And eventually you're going to have to run into the principle of freedom. Because why doesn't the government just keep people in cells, Why doesn't the government just keep people in a prison cell all the time? Why doesn't the government just regulate all work, control all aspects of your life? Why not? I mean, think how many people could be saved if the government simply had control of where you lived and where you worked, so you never had to drive, never had to risk your life. Wouldn't that be great? No, it wouldn't be great, because you have freedom right now. Some freedom, at least, because we have things that we can enjoy in life. We have the ability to move around, and that's a good thing, to be able to move around freely. The value of freedom is one that people often fail to consider in government. There's not a limiting principle with speed limits. It's just they feel like they can enforce this. And is enforcement really a rule? Besides, banning vehicles altogether would be really easy to enforce. If you see any vehicle, you can just immediately destroy it. Just pour some kerosene in the engine and set it on fire. Super easy, right? So why don't we adopt this? Because we value freedom. Everyone values freedom at least a little bit. So, I mean, I hate to make my whole argument be like in a really deep voice, 'cause freedom. I mean, it is a good argument, but I don't want that to be the whole thing. It's just you have to realize that at some point there's an amount of regulation which is unreasonable. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, and when you consider why it doesn't make sense, the only reason why a 2-mile-an-hour speed limit doesn't make sense is because you value people's freedom at least a little bit. It's a value in and of itself. And that value is not diminished when you get up to 65 miles an hour. So, what I hope you get out of this, what I hope you kind of agree with me on, is that freedom is a good thing, and we can't just say no, freedom has no value. We should just have the government control everything for us. Because while it seems like something that a lot of people will go along with now, it seems like such a mild thing. It's not a mild thing. The government is controlling your motion on a daily basis. Like, just trying to get where you're going, the government is swooping in and punishing people for it. I mean, and I think a lot of people kind of recognize that, even if they don't recognize it consciously, they kind of recognize the unfairness of a speed limit, because they figure to themselves, I'm a responsible driver, I can know what I'm doing, I can go a little faster than the speed limit. And, then people will get into enforcement and say, the cops aren't going to pull me over for this. I mean, it's not a great argument, but I mean, I'm glad they're doing it, because they're kind of saying, well, I don't really care about what the letter of the law is. The law isn't an inherent value, and neither is safety, actually. Safety isn't an inherent value. The government shouldn't punish you for simply moving about freely. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. So if I have made any massive fallacies, please leave them in the comments. I want to have the right positions, and I want you to tell me if I'm being stupid. Alright, well, that's all I have to say about that particular issue. Thank you very much for watching. You have a great day.